Over $50 billion. That's what American importers and consumers paid from just one round of Trump-era tariffs. This was a hidden tax, quietly draining households and businesses. Now, a landmark legal decision has changed the game. The U.S. Court of International Trade ruled that the expansion of tariffs on Chinese goods under Section 301 was unlawful. This isn't just a technicality, it's a direct rebuke of the America First protectionist doctrine. The court found the administration ignored mandatory comment periods and overstepped its authority. The ruling targets tariffs that hit everyday Americans hardest, on goods like electronics, apparel, and backpacks. Economists have long argued the trade war was bad policy built on shaky legal ground. Now, the court agrees. This is a victory for the rule of law over arbitrary executive action. For years, the government justified tariffs as necessary to combat China's practices, but in its rush, it bypassed legal safeguards. The court's decision is a reminder. Process matters, and executive power has limits. Future administrations are now on notice. Trade policy must follow the law. The implications go far beyond these tariffs. It's a national reckoning with the true costs of the trade war. Political rhetoric about winning hid the reality. American companies, farmers, and consumers paid the price. The tariffs didn't reduce the trade deficit or bring back manufacturing jobs. Instead, they disrupted industries, raised costs, and triggered retaliation against U.S. exports. The court's decision exposes this policy failure and provides a factual basis for understanding the damage. It's a starting point for a more honest conversation about America's role in the global economy. The verdict is clear. The trade war was a costly mistake. The law and the facts have caught up. Now, the real work of rebuilding begins. The court's decision was simple. The Trump administration broke the rules. Under the Administrative Procedure Act, agencies must explain their actions and consider public feedback. The U.S. Trade Representative ignored thousands of warnings from businesses about the economic harm of new tariffs. The law gives the president power to respond to unfair trade, but not unlimited power. The administration followed the rules at first, then abandoned them as the trade war escalated. The court made it clear, you can't just declare new tariffs without a legal basis. This sets a major precedent. Executive overreach in trade policy will be checked. Courts have usually deferred to the executive on trade, but this decision signals a shift. When actions are arbitrary and hurt Americans, the judiciary will step in. The ruling opens the door for thousands of companies to reclaim billions in illegal tariffs. Over 3,600 lawsuits challenge these tariffs. Now, refunds are on the table. This isn't just symbolic, it's real money back to American businesses. The message is powerful. The government can't ignore its own laws without consequence. The judiciary is the final arbiter. The rule of law stands. And the era of unchecked trade war is over. For American businesses, the court's decision is a lifeline. Billions in illegal tariffs can now be reclaimed. Money that could mean the difference between growth and survival. For a medium-sized importer, millions paid in tariff-strained resources from hiring and innovation. The prospect of refunds is a game-changer. The ruling also brings long-awaited certainty to supply chains. The trade war's unpredictability forced businesses into crisis mode, scrambling to manage costs and inventory. With the unlawful tariffs gone, companies can plan for the future with more confidence. Investors have noticed, stocks for import-heavy sectors are rebounding. Industries like electronics and apparel, hit hardest by tariffs, are breathing easier. But the relief isn't universal. Claiming refunds will be complex, and small businesses may struggle with the process. And not all the damage can be undone. Many companies spent years and millions reconfiguring supply chains to avoid tariffs. Those investments are sunk costs. The scars of the trade war remain, even as the immediate financial pressure lifts. Still, this decision marks a turning point. The worst of the tariff pain is over. American business can finally look ahead. The healing starts now. Let's be clear. Americans paid the tariffs, not China. Study after study confirms it. U.S. importers and consumers bore the cost. The tariffs acted as a regressive sales tax, hitting everyday goods from car seats to shoes. Lower and middle-income families felt it most. With the court's ruling, prices for many imports should gradually fall as illegal tariffs are removed. It won't happen overnight, Retailers must work through old inventory. But relief is coming. This is in effect a tax cut for working families, delivered by the courts. The tariffs also fueled inflation, raising prices on imports and domestic goods alike. Removing them will help ease cost pressures and support the Fed's fight against inflation. The episode is a lesson in economic transparency. Tariffs were sold as punishment for China, but in reality, they were a tax on Americans. The court's decision makes this truth undeniable. It exposes the real cost of protectionist rhetoric. Hopefully, it sparks a more honest debate about trade policy. When politicians launch a trade war, it's Americans who pay. The evidence is now impossible to ignore. The Trump tariffs damaged America's global reputation. Allies were alienated by sudden, unilateral trade moves. The court's ruling is a step toward repairing that trust. It shows U.S. institutions can check executive overreach, even in trade. This reassures partners that America values the rule of law. But one court decision can't erase years of erratic policy. The world has moved on. Europe and Asia are forging new trade alliances. Reducing reliance on the U.S. rebuilding trust will take more than this verdict. It requires a sustained commitment to multilateralism and predictability. The ruling gives the current administration a chance to pivot away from confrontation. It's an opportunity to re-engage allies and lead a coalition for real reform. The door is open. The question, will America walk through it? The world is watching. The numbers tell a harsh story. U.S. tariffs and China's retaliation cut American GDP by nearly $8 billion. Importers paid almost all the tariff costs. China didn't absorb them. The trade war failed to shrink the U.S. trade deficit. In fact, the overall deficit hit record highs. Tariffs simply shifted trade to other countries, not back to America. The promised manufacturing boom never materialized. Most job growth was part of a pre-existing trend, not a result of tariffs. Many manufacturers were hurt by higher input costs and foreign retaliation. Farmers suffered billions in losses, requiring massive government bailouts. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce estimated the trade war could cost $1 trillion in lost GDP over a decade. For households, it was one of the largest tax hikes in years. The court's decision isn't just legal, it's economic necessity. The data is clear, the trade war was a costly failure. It hurt those it claimed to help. The facts are in. The experiment failed. It's time to move forward. The court's ruling brings relief, but the trade war's scars run deep. Efficient global supply chains were disrupted, forcing companies to shift production to other countries, often at higher cost. These new supply chains are less efficient, making U.S. firms less competitive. The efficiency tax will linger, even with tariffs gone. American exporters lost market share as China and others retaliated. Farmers especially may never fully regain lost ground in China. The trade war taught businesses that policy can change overnight, making them wary of long-term investments. The court's decision helps, but the memory of volatility will cast a long shadow. The damage to competitiveness and confidence will take years to repair. This court decision is a political judgment on the America First doctrine. The trade war was sold as a defense of American workers, but the ruling exposes its failures. The court invalidated a key policy as unlawful overreach. Now, opponents can argue the trade war wasn't just bad policy, it was illegal. This shifts the debate from economics to the rule of law. The Biden administration, wary of appearing soft on China, now has legal cover to unwind tariffs. For protectionists, defending a policy declared illegal and harmful is a tough sell. This could mark a turning point in both parties' trade debates. The ruling highlights the difference between being tough and being effective. The less chaotic, unilateral actions do more harm than good. The court's verdict closes a chaotic chapter in U.S. trade policy. Billions will be returned to businesses, prices will fall, and uncertainty is reduced. But the scars remain. Supply chains are altered, markets lost, and trust shaken. America's leadership in global trade can't be restored by reversing a few bad policies. The choice is clear. Continue down the path of protectionism, or use this moment to re-engage with the world. One path leads to isolation and stagnation. the other to renewed leadership and prosperity. The court has cleared the wreckage. The next move is America's. Which path will we choose?